The air was heavy with dust, the bunker smelled like rust and burned metal. Somewhere above, the echoes of war had stopped, but silence was even more frightening than bombs. The human soldier opened his eyes and felt the weight of stone pressing. All around him, he tried to move, but the floor was hard, the ceiling low, and the walls tight. He was alive, but trapped. His helmet light was broken. The darkness was thick. Almost alive, he reached for his belt. No water, no food, no radio signal. Only a dull knife, scratched and bent. A hopeless laugh escaped his lips. He whispered to himself, "So this is how I die." Alone in the dark, the soldier pushed himself up, coughing from the dust. The bunker had collapsed when the blast hit. He remembered the bright fire, the sound of metal screaming, then falling into a hole. Now he was inside this broken underground cage. He tapped the wall. Solid stone and alien alloy. No way out. The silence pressed into his ears until he heard something moving. A soft sound, like fabric brushing stone. The soldier froze, his knife ready in shaking hands. His heart pounded, each beat louder than the silence. He whispered, "Who's there?" No answer, only the sound of breathing, low and quick. He was not alone. The fear inside him grew. If it was an alien soldier, he would be killed. If it was a creature, he would be eaten. He moved slowly, step by step. Following the sound, the darkness made every step feel like a mile. Then two glowing eyes appeared, faint and silver. Watching him from the corner, the soldier's breath caught in his throat. The figure was small, crouched low, and trembling. Not a monster, someone. "Young, fragile," he whispered again. "Who are you?" The eyes blinked, and a soft voice answered in broken words. "No, hurt me." It was a girl, an alien girl, maybe no older than a teenager, with strange skin that shimmered faintly even in the dark. Her hair floated around her face like soft threads of light. She clutched her arms around her body, fear clear in her shaking hands. The soldier lowered his knife slowly. He could see now she was trapped here, just like him, for a long moment. Neither moved. Two enemies, two survivors, staring at each other in the dark. The soldier spoke first, his voice tired. "We're both stuck here." The alien girl tilted her head, trying to understand. Her lips moved, and finally she whispered, "Trapped." The word sounded strange in her accent, but it was enough. The soldier sat against the wall, his body weak, his throat burned from thirst, his stomach twisted. In hunger, he looked at the girl, wondering how long she had been here. She seemed even weaker, her shoulders thin, her face pale. He could hear her breathing, shallow and fast. She was just as close to death as he was. Hours passed like years. The soldier tried to sleep, but fear kept his eyes open. Sometimes he thought the ceiling would fall, crushing them both. Sometimes he thought the silence would drive him mad. The only sound was the alien girl, moving softly in the dark. At times he could hear her whispering words in her language, words he could not understand. It sounded like prayers, or maybe begging for someone to come. The human soldier began to talk. Even if she did not understand, he told her his name, though she only stared at him with wide eyes. He spoke of his home far away, of blue skies and oceans. His voice was weak, but talking kept him from falling into despair. The alien girl listened, her head tilted, as if trying to catch the meaning of his words. The hunger inside him grew sharper. His lips cracked, his body trembled. He thought about water, about food, about survival. The soldier pressed his head back against the wall and whispered, "If no one finds us soon, we're dead." The alien girl's glowing eyes lowered, and her hands clutched her chest. She seemed to know he was right. Then, from above, came a sound, rocks shifting. Both of them froze, listening. Maybe it was rescue, maybe it was danger. The sound faded. Silence returned. The soldier cursed under his breath. The alien girl whispered something in her tongue. Voice trembling, he didn't understand, but he knew the meaning: fear in the suffocating dark. Two enemies now sat together, both broken, both waiting, both afraid. The bunker was a prison, but also a test. The soldier's mind repeated one thought: I cannot survive alone. And as the alien girl's glowing eyes watched him in silence, he began to wonder, could survival mean trusting her? The soldier's body ached, but his eyes never left the strange figure in the corner. She was real, not a shadow, not his imagination, but a living alien girl trapped in the same bunker as him. Her faint glow lit the walls like a ghostly lantern. Soft silver light moving with each breath she took. She looked fragile, but her eyes told another story. Her eyes held fear, yes, but also strength. He had seen eyes like that only in other soldiers, people who had lost everything yet still refused to break. The human pressed his back against the cold wall and studied her carefully. She avoided his stare, hugging her knees to her chest, as if trying to make herself smaller. She was different from the alien warriors he had fought before. Those wore armor, carried deadly weapons, and screamed war cries, but this one, her hands shook. Her clothes were torn, and her skin was marked with bruises and dirt. She looked less like an enemy and more like a survivor, just like him. For a long time, neither spoke. The silence inside the bunker was deep, filled only by the sound of their breaths. Finally, the soldier whispered, "Who are you?" The girl's head lifted, her glowing eyes meeting his. Her lips moved slowly, forming words in broken human speech. "No." "Name," she said, shaking her head. The voice was soft, almost childlike, but filled with exhaustion. He frowned, confused. Did she not understand, or was she refusing to tell him? Either way, he tried again, tapping his chest. "Human, soldier." Then he pointed at her, waiting. She hesitated, then touched her own chest, whispering a sound he could barely catch. It wasn't a human name, was strange, musical and short. He tried to repeat it, but his tongue stumbled, making her give a tiny laugh. The first sound that wasn't fear. That laugh broke something inside the bunker's heavy silence. For a moment, the soldier forgot the war, forgot the hunger, forgot the fear. She was no longer just an alien, she was a person. Like him, they sat in silence again. But it was a softer silence now, not so sharp. Still, his body reminded him of the truth: he was weak, starving and thirsty. He pulled his knees closer, groaning. Under his breath, the alien girl watched him carefully, her expression tightening as if she could feel his pain. Then she moved, slowly, crawling toward him. The soldier tensed, gripping his knife, but she raised both hands in the air, a sign of peace. Her eyes glowed brighter for a second as she stopped a few feet away. She opened her hands and showed him something: dried roots. Small and twisted, she pushed them forward, her voice trembling. "Food." The human blinked in shock. He took one root, bit into it, and winced. It was bitter, almost impossible to chew, but it was something. Something that kept the fire of life burning a little longer. The girl watched him eat, and her shoulders relaxed. She had shared what little she had, even though she was just as weak. The soldier nodded, whispering, "Thank you." She tilted her head, not fully understanding. But his tone made her eyes soften. For the first time, trust began to bloom in that cold, dark bunker. Hours turned into days, though time was hard to measure underground. Sometimes the soldier would wake up to find her sitting nearby, watching him. Sometimes he would catch her tracing patterns on the wall with her glowing fingers. Her glow was strange, but it gave him comfort. Without her, the darkness would have swallowed him whole. Still, hunger gnawed at him. The roots were too few, and water was none. The soldier's lips cracked deeper, his body shaking from weakness. He tried to hide it, but the alien girl could see. She stared at him with worry in her glowing eyes. At night, when he drifted into half-sleep, he thought he heard her whispering in her own tongue. The words carried a rhythm, like lullabies or prayers. Even if he didn't understand, the sound kept him alive, reminding him he wasn't completely alone. One day, as he leaned weakly against the wall, the soldier noticed something. The girl was trembling, not from fear, but from decision. She crawled closer, her face uncertain, her lips pressing together. Finally, she placed her hand against her chest and whispered, "Help." Human, her voice cracked as if what she was about to do cost her everything. The soldier looked at her in confusion. Help him? How? They were both dying here, trapped with no escape, no food, no water. But the look in her glowing eyes was serious, almost desperate. She had something to give. Something she had hidden until now. And as he stared at her in silence, he realized. This alien girl was not only his prison companion, she was about to become the reason he lived or the reason he died. The human soldier's body grew weaker with every passing hour. The bitter roots the alien girl had given him were gone. His lips were dry, his tongue heavy, and his vision blurred at the edges. When he tried to stand, his knees buckled and he collapsed back to the cold floor. The bunker was not only a prison of stone, it was slowly becoming his grave. The alien girl sat nearby, her glowing eyes full of worry. She could hear his shallow breaths, the rattling sound of thirst breaking him down. He tried to smile, as if to say he was fine. But the truth showed on his pale face. The girl pressed her hands to her chest, her lips whispering words in her own language. She was struggling with a choice that made her shake with fear and shame. Finally, she crawled closer to him. The human opened his eyes slowly, confused by the determined look on her face. Her voice trembled as she whispered. In broken human words, "I help you," he frowned, weakly lifting his head. "How?" "We have nothing left." The girl swallowed hard, her glowing eyes lowering to the ground. She hesitated, then placed her hand on her chest and whispered one word. "Milk." The soldier blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. Her voice was soft, almost ashamed. But the meaning struck him like a shock. He pushed himself up with shaking arms, staring at her in disbelief. "Milk?" he repeated, his voice rough and cracked. She nodded slowly, her face burning with embarrassment. Her species had a survival gift, a way to feed not only their young, but even other beings in times of famine. It was their secret nourishment, carried within themselves, and now, trapped in this bunker, she was offering it to him. The soldier felt his heart race, not from strength, but from confusion. He looked at her, trembling between pride and desperation. His human mind screamed against it, felt wrong, unnatural, humiliating, but his body screamed louder, begging for water, for food, for anything to live. The girl's eyes met his, wide and pleading. She whispered again, "You live." His chest tightened. He saw how thin she was, how she too suffered hunger. Yet she was willing to share the very life. From her own body, he shook his head weakly, muttering, "I can't. I shouldn't." But when he tried to speak further, his voice broke. His body collapsed sideways, too weak to fight anymore. The girl reached out and steadied him. Her hands trembling, she whispered words in her language, perhaps comforting him, perhaps comforting herself. The moments stretched heavy in the silence. Finally, the soldier gave a broken laugh that was closer to a sob. He whispered, "Survival. Survival makes men do anything," and with that, he stopped resisting. The alien girl moved closer, her face pale, her body tense. She closed her eyes as if bracing herself. Then, slowly, carefully, she offered him what her kind called life's gift. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Drink, human." Live. The soldier's heart pounded with shame and gratitude all at once. This was survival stripped bare. No pride, no rules. Only life clinging to life, he accepted, his body trembling, his breath ragged. Warmth touched his lips, a taste. Strange yet sweet, his throat accepted eagerly what his mind still refused to believe. And with every swallow, strength returned, drop by drop. He felt his chest loosen, his heartbeat grow steadier. The darkness inside his head began to lift. When it was done, he pulled back, gasping for breath. His face was red, his eyes full of confusion. The alien girl turned her head away, her shoulders shaking. She felt shame, but also relief. She had kept him alive. Silence filled the bunker, thick and heavy. The human sat there, staring at his trembling hands. He whispered, "You saved me." The alien girl looked at him slowly, her eyes wet with silver tears. She shook her head, whispering, "No. We saved." Her words were broken, but the meaning was clear. She didn't see it as giving. She saw it as sharing. That night, the soldier lay awake, staring at the faint glow of the alien girl. His pride was wounded, his humanity shaken. But he could not deny the truth without her. He would already be dead, and somewhere deep inside, past the shame and the confusion, grew something new, a strange bond, a fragile thread tying him to her. Not enemy, not stranger, something more. Something born out of desperation in the silence of the bunker. The soldier realized a chilling truth. If rescue never came, his only hope of survival lay in her. And hers in him. The war above had thrown them together as enemies. But down here, in the dark, their survival had made them something else. And as he closed his eyes, he whispered one thought, maybe. We were meant to find each other here. The human soldier woke with a slow breath. For the first time in days, his chest did not burn, his head did not spin. His body was still weak, but there was strength in his arms again. He opened his eyes and found the alien girl sitting close, her silver glow, faint but steady. She was watching him, her eyes filled with quiet relief. When she saw him awake, she whispered in her broken voice, "You live." He sat up slowly, his throat still dry. But life now hummed inside him like a small fire. He looked at her, at the thinness of her arms, at her tired shoulders. She had shared herself with him, given him a part of her strength. It was a gift beyond what words could describe. He whispered back, "Yes. Thanks to you." She tilted her head, not fully understanding. But the softness in her eyes told him she felt his meaning. The days after that were strange. They were enemies, no longer, at least not in the dark of the bunker. The human and the alien girl learned to move together, to search the cracks of the broken walls for scraps of root or drops of water. When they found nothing, she offered her strange gift again. And he accepted, at first with shame, then with quiet gratitude. Survival bound them tighter than any language could. At night, when silence pressed down heavy, they spoke in fragments. The human would say a word, and she would try to repeat it. Sometimes she laughed when she got it wrong, a sound soft and rare. Sometimes she taught him her own words, flowing and musical. They built a bridge from broken pieces of two tongues. It was not perfect, but it was enough. Through it, they shared simple truths: fear, hunger, loneliness, hope. One evening, the soldier sat against the wall, staring at the glowing marks she had drawn with her fingers, strange circles and flowing lines, shining faintly like stars. He asked her, "What is it?" She touched the wall, whispering one word, "Home." Her voice carried longing, a deep ache that made his chest tighten. He closed his eyes and pictured his own home: blue skies, oceans, green fields, things that felt like dreams now. For the first time he realized she was as far from safety as he was. They were not only trapped in the same bunker, they were both lost children of war. The soldier began to care for her in small ways. He gave her the larger piece of root when they found food. He stayed awake longer when she needed sleep, and once, when she shivered from the cold, he gave her his torn jacket. She accepted it, pulling it tight around her glowing body. When she whispered warm, he felt a strange pride inside. Yet survival was never easy. The bunker was rotting around them. Sometimes stones fell from the ceiling with a sharp crash, making them huddle together. Sometimes distant booms shook the ground above, reminders that the war had not ended. Each sound filled them with fear that their prison would bury them alive. But each time they held on to each other, and the fear lessened. Not gone, but shared. The soldier began to notice something else. The alien girl's glow was growing dimmer. With each day, each time she shared her gift, she weakened, her shoulders shaking. Her breath shallow. He wanted to refuse, to tell her no, but when he did, she would press his hand and whisper firmly, "Live." She had decided his survival was hers. He could not understand why, but he could not deny it either. One night, he woke to the sound of her crying softly. The bunker was silent except for her quiet sobs. He sat up and reached toward her, hesitating. Then, carefully, he placed his hand on her shoulder. She turned her glowing eyes to him, silver tears streaking her face. Her voice broke as she whispered in her tongue, words he did not understand. But her expression told him everything. She was afraid. Afraid she was giving too much. Afraid she would not last. Afraid they would both die down here. The soldier tightened his hand on her shoulder, whispering, "You're not alone." Not anymore. She blinked at him, and though she did not understand the words fully, she understood the feeling. Her tears slowed, and for the first time she leaned into him. Her small frame shook against his chest. And he held her, to lost souls, enemies by war, but bound now by survival and something deeper. The days blurred together, but their bond grew stronger. The soldier no longer saw her as alien. He saw her as a companion, fragile yet fierce. She no longer flinched from his touch, no longer feared his presence. They shared not just food and strength, but silence, fear, and small moments of comfort. The bunker was still a prison, but together it became a place of connection, and yet, in the quiet corners of his mind, the soldier felt the truth. This fragile survival could not last forever. Her glow was fading, his body still weak, the war still raging above. They could not live in the bunker forever. One day the stones would fall, or the enemy would find them. He looked at her sleeping face, peaceful for once, and whispered into the dark, "I will find a way out." For both of us, the bunker no longer held just to prisoners. It held a promise unspoken, but strong, and though the walls seemed eternal, the bond between human and alien had become stronger still. The bunker had become a strange rhythm of survival. The human soldier and the alien girl shared silence, scraps of food, and her gift of life. Every day felt the same dark walls, heavy air, the sound of dripping stone. But one night, everything changed. The soldier woke to a sound. At first, he thought it was part of a dream, a distant rumble, like claws scraping against stone. He sat up quickly, knife in hand, heart pounding. The alien girl stirred beside him, her silver eyes wide. She had heard it too, for a long moment. They both listened. Silence. Then another noise closer, this time heavy and slow. The soldier whispered, "Something's out there." The girl shivered, her lips forming a word in her language. A word that carried pure fear. He didn't understand the meaning, but he understood the tone. Danger. He crawled toward the wall, pressing his ear against the stone. There it was, again scraping, digging, the sound of something searching. His blood ran cold. It wasn't human. and from the way the alien girl trembled. It wasn't friendly either. The soldier pulled back, trying to stay calm. "Stay quiet," he whispered. She nodded, pressing her glowing hand against her mouth, her eyes never leaving the wall. The sound grew louder, then stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. Every breath felt like it might give them away. Hours seemed to pass, though it might have only been minutes. The soldier's knife felt useless in his hand. If whatever was out there broke through the wall, they were finished. He glanced at the alien girl. Her glow was faint, her face pale. She mouthed one word, trembling, "Hunters." His stomach twisted. Hunters. It didn't matter if they were alien beasts or enemy soldiers, the meaning was the same. Something was out there, and it was looking for them. The next day, the soldier was restless. Every sound of stone shifting made him jump. The alien girl moved carefully, speaking little, her fear plain. She told him in broken words that her people sometimes released creatures into tunnels like this, creatures trained to find survivors. To her, the noise outside was not a mystery. It was a death sentence. That night, the scraping came again. This time closer, louder. The wall shook, dust falling onto their heads. The alien girl clutched the soldier's arm, her glowing eyes wide with terror. He pulled her close, whispering, "Stay with me." The sound went on for hours, then faded, leaving silence once more. But the silence felt like a promise. The threat was not gone, only waiting. The soldier knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. The bunker had given them safety for days, maybe weeks, but now it was a trap-a-cage, waiting to be opened. He whispered to himself, "We need a way out." The alien girl shook her head, whispering, "No way. Only death outside." Her words carried truth, but also despair. She had given up hope long ago, but the human wasn't ready to give up, not yet. The next days were filled with tension. Every sound felt like danger. Every silence felt like the calm before a storm. They whispered less, slept less, and stayed close together. The soldier sharpened his knife on the stone, though he knew it wouldn't matter. The alien girl began to hum softly, a trembling song in her language. It was not for him, which was for herself, a way to keep her courage alive. One night, the sound returned, but this time it was not scratching, it was voices, the soldiers. Heart froze, voices harsh and deep, speaking in the alien tongue. He looked at the girl, and she nodded, terror in her eyes. Her people, they were searching. The soldier pressed his back against the wall, holding the knife tightly. If they found him here, they would kill him without question. But what about her? Would they take her back or punish her for helping him? The thought twisted in his gut. She had kept him alive. Now he might be the reason she died. The voices moved closer, echoing through the cracks. The girl pressed her forehead against the soldier's arm. Trembling, she whispered, "Hide." He shook his head, whispering back, "They'll find me." Her eyes filled with desperation. "No. I hide you," she said, her broken words heavy with meaning. The soldier's throat tightened. She was ready to risk herself to protect him. Even against her own people, he wanted to refuse, to say no, but the voices grew louder. Footsteps shaking the ground, they were running out of time. The alien girl grabbed his hand and pulled him toward a crack in the wall, a narrow space barely big enough for his body. She pushed him inside. Covering the gap with her glowing body, the soldier's heart pounded as he pressed into the darkness. Through the crack, he saw her standing tall, her glow brighter than before. She was ready to face them, to lie, to fight whatever it took. The voices reached the bunker. Shadows fell across the broken stones. The soldier held his breath, knife shaking in his hand. The alien girl whispered something softly, her voice firm now. She had made her choice, and whatever happened next would decide both their fates. Bunker walls shook as heavy boots crushed the loose stones. Shadows moved in the broken passage, and the soldier's breath caught in his throat. He pressed himself deeper into the narrow crack in the wall, hidden in the darkness. Through the gap, he could see the alien girl standing, her glowing body blocking the view. Her silver light painted the bunker walls in a soft glow. Disguising the shadows behind her, the alien soldiers entered, their voices sharp. They spoke in a tongue the human could not understand, but their tone was harsh, commanding. The girl's shoulders tensed, but she bowed her head, answering in her language. Her words were quick, but her voice trembled. The human gripped his knife tighter. Was she lying for him, or giving him away? The leader stepped closer, a tall alien with armor cracked but still shining. His eyes glowed with authority as he barked another question. The girl's glow dimmed as she whispered back. Shaking her head, she was saying there was no one here. No human hiding in the dark. The soldier's chest tightened. She was protecting him. But the leader didn't believe easily. He moved closer, sniffing the air, scanning the shadows. The human's heart pounded so loudly he was sure they could hear it. Sweat dripped from his brow, his knife shaking in his grip. One step closer, and the leader would see through the glow. One step closer, and it would all be over. The alien girl suddenly cried out, distracting him. Her voice was sharp, almost angry. As she pointed toward the far wall, she spoke quickly, her tone urgent. The soldiers turned, their attention shifting. The human realized what she was doing, sending them in the wrong direction. Buying him time, her loyalty was no longer a question. But the danger was not gone. One of the soldiers stepped toward her. Suspicious, he grabbed her arm roughly, making her flinch. The human clenched his teeth, rage burning inside him. He wanted to leap from the shadows, to drive his knife into the soldier's neck. But he forced himself still. If he moved now, both of them would die. The girl tried to stay calm, answering the questions, her voice steady now. She lied with courage, even as the soldier's grip tightened on her arm. The leader studied her glowing face for a long moment. Finally, he barked an order, and the soldier let go. They turned away, their heavy steps echoing as they moved back toward the passage. The human felt relief wash over him like cool water. But then one soldier stopped. He glanced back at the girl, his eyes narrowing. His gaze slid to the crack in the wall. The human froze, every muscle tight. The soldier tilted his head, suspicion clear. The alien girl's glow flared suddenly. Blinding in the dark, she shouted something sharp in her language. The soldier turned away quickly. Startled by her sudden brightness, with a grunt, he followed. His group out of the bunker, silence returned, heavy and suffocating. The human stayed hidden until the last echo of footsteps was gone. Only then did the alien girl collapse to her knees, her glow fading weak. The soldier crawled from the crack, rushing to her side. She was trembling, her breath fast and shallow. "You saved me," he whispered, his voice shaking. Her glowing eyes lifted weakly to his. She whispered back, "Save us." The human's throat tightened. She had risked everything, lied to her own people, stood against them to protect him. She could have betrayed him, handed him over, and walked free. Instead, she had chosen loyalty to the one person who should have been her enemy. He held her shoulders gently, whispering, "Why? Why would you do this for me?" Her lips trembled as she searched for words. Finally, in broken human speech, she whispered, "Because you see me, not enemy." Her voice cracked on the last word, silver tears falling down her face. The human felt his chest ache. In the middle of war, in the depths of darkness, she had found someone who treated her as more than a weapon, more than a prisoner, and for that, she had chosen him. The soldier pulled her into his arms, her frail body shaking against his. "I won't let them take you," he whispered, his words fierce. Even if she didn't understand every word, she felt the strength in them. Her trembling slowed. Her breathing steadied. For a moment, the bunker did not feel like a prison. It felt like the only place in the galaxy where two enemies had chosen to trust. But deep inside, the soldier knew the truth. This would not be the last time the aliens would return, and next time they might not believe her lies. The creatures outside might still be hunting. The bunker could not protect them forever. He looked into her glowing eyes, filled with both fear and courage. They had survived the test of loyalty, but now came the hardest part, finding a way out together. The bunker had grown quieter after the alien soldiers left, but the silence was not Passette, was the silence of a storm waiting to return. The human soldier sat beside the alien girl, her head resting weakly against the wall. Her glow had dimmed. Her body drained from fear and from the strength she had given him. He could see the toll survival had taken on her, and he knew time was running out. He whispered softly, "We can't stay here anymore." She opened her glowing eyes, confusion mixing with fear outside. "Death," she murmured, her voice fragile. He shook his head firmly. "Inside, death too. If we wait, they'll come back." She stared at him for a long moment, then lowered her eyes. She knew he was right. The soldier rose to his feet, his knife clutched tight. He walked to the broken edge of the bunker, pressing his hand against the cold stone above. Faint rumbles still echoed. The war had not ended. But he would rather face the battlefield than die slowly in the dark. He turned back to her, his voice steady. "We leave together. Or not at all." Her lips trembled, silver tears glistening in her glowing eyes. She shook her head as if to say she did not deserve such loyalty, but he crouched in front of her, taking her thin hands in his. "You saved me," he whispered. "Now I'll save you," even if she did not understand every word. She felt the promise. Her breath caught, and for the first time, she nodded. Together. They searched the bunker for a way out. The human pushed at collapsed stones, testing cracks in the wall. The girl used her faint glow to guide him. Finally, they found a narrow passage half buried in rubble. The air that seeped through was fresher, carrying the scent of smoke and open sky. Hope flickered inside both of them, but before they could crawl through, the sound returned: heavy boots, alien voices, and the scraping claws of hunters. The soldiers had returned faster than either expected. The girl froze, terror flashing in her eyes. The soldier grabbed her hand, whispering fiercely, "Go, now." She shook her head, fear paralyzing her. If they crawled out now, the soldiers might catch them in the open. If they stayed, they would be trapped and killed. It was the moment of truth: fight, flee, or surrender. The human squeezed her hand tightly, his voice sharp, "Trust me." Her eyes widened, and for a heartbeat, she hesitated. Then she nodded, her trembling hand clutching his. The two of them crawled into the narrow tunnel, stones cutting their skin. Behind them, voices grew louder, the soldiers shouting orders. The scraping claws of hunters echoed like knives against the stone. Dust rained down as the tunnel shook. The soldier pushed her forward, forcing himself not to stop. He could feel the hunters closing in, their growls vibrating the walls. At last, they burst into the open. The night sky stretched above them, filled with smoke and fire. The battlefield was ruined craters, broken ships, burning wreckage. But the air was free, the sky vast, and for the first time in days, stars shone above. The girl gasped at the sight, her glow brighter as hope returned. But hope was short-lived. Behind them, the tunnel cracked open and alien soldiers poured out. Hunters at their heels, the leader raised his weapon. Shouting in fury when he saw the human, the girl stepped forward, her glow flaring bright. She shouted something in her language, her voice shaking the ground. The soldiers froze for a moment. Surprised, she was defying them, standing with the enemy. The leader snarled and raised his weapon again. The soldier stepped in front of her, knife in hand, ready to die fighting. But the girl grabbed his arm, pulling him back, her glowing eyes locked on his, full of determination. "No? Run," she whispered, her voice breaking. Her meaning was clear: she would face them. By him time, her final choice was sacrifice. The soldier's heart twisted. "No," he whispered fiercely. "We leave together." But she shook her head, her glow blazing brighter than ever before. She shouted at her people, her words sharp and fierce. She was no longer weak, no longer silent. She was a warrior now, not for them, but for him. The soldiers hesitated, unsure. Their own kind standing against them was unthinkable. The hunters growled, sensing the tension. The girl's glow spread across the battlefield, silver light fighting against the darkness. She turned back to the human one last time. Her lips formed broken human words. "Live? Please." Tears burned his eyes as he stared at her. He wanted to fight beside her, to never leave. But her gaze begged him, demanded him, with a final whisper, "I'll come back for you." He turned and ran into the smoke. The battlefield swallowed him. Behind, the girl's glow lit the night like a falling star. Her voice carried on the wind, fierce and unbroken. The human's chest ached. But his legs carried him forward. He would live not just for himself, but for her. And in that moment, he knew the truth. Enemies could become allies, strangers could become family, and sometimes the bond of survival was stronger than any wall. Of war, her final choice had given him life. Now his choice would be to honor it. No matter what it cost, he would return for her.